Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Priceless Podcast. This podcast is going to be a little bit different because I'm finally doing it in person with my guest today. So it was a little bit stressful to get ready today, to kind of get used to setting up the light for two of us, but I'm so happy that this is possible now. If you want to follow this podcast and get news about what's happening with the podcast, you can subscribe to our newsletter, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can of course visit our webpage. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups, and we are actually having the conference here at the Paulus Akademie in Switzerland, Zurich. This podcast is also part of the series Let Us Be Heard, sponsored by HMS. So it's time to come to our guest today. His name is Csongor Kozma, and he's from Davos, but now he's living in Zurich as much as I know. He's a theologian, and he's the director of the Paulus Akademie, where we are right now having the conference. Welcome, dear Csongor, and thank you for being my guest today.
Well, thank you having me. So this podcast is also priceless for us, so we can spread our messages from the Paulus Akademie to the world.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I have to say the Paulus Akademie, from what I saw, is really interesting. Who knows, maybe we could do something also about the Paulus Akademie, but today I would like to hear a little bit more. So you studied theology with an emphasis and major in ethics, as much as I understand. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our viewers and listeners about yourself? Who is Csongor?
Now, I think you got the most important points of my resume. Of course, I hope that as a person I am more than that. But I'm looking forward for your questions, and that which I'm sure help me to reveal more of myself.
Okay, so the first question I have is actually, I read some articles about you. I tried to prepare this interview because this is the first time that we met. And I read a lot about that people are saying, calling you a migrant, but you were actually born in Switzerland, but you have a Hungarian heritage. And this is so interesting for me because I have dual citizenship. I was born in Germany. I grew up in Croatia. My dad was Croatian. My mom is German. So I never belonged anywhere. I was always the foreigner. So I'm really interested, how does this influence you, your life, your work as this so-called migrant, also with a different sexual orientation?
Yes, well, it's true. I grew up in Switzerland, in that little Swiss town of Davos in the mountains. And the society around me made me feel that I am not Swiss, but I was longing to be Swiss. And later I realized that I'm different also in other ways, but I was still longing for acceptance. And I think this experience made me sensitive for the issues of diversity and inclusivity, and led me to my job as the director of an institution which shares those values.
In these articles, there was also mentioned, and I already mentioned in the question, that you are gay. You talked about that you went through a hard process of self-acceptance, and well, we all know how hard it is to be LGBT plus within the Catholic Church, and you're Catholic. Can you tell us a little bit more about your process of self-acceptance as a theologian, as a member of the Catholic Church?
Yes, of course. As I just mentioned, I was longing for acceptance, and for a very long time, because of that, I avoided the thought of being different, which was much easier than nowadays, because in that little Swiss town of Davos in the mountains, there was no gay person I knew of, and at that time the representation of positive gay people in popular culture was very little. So I think the turning point came the turning point came actually when I was watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show, where Frank and Furter at the end is singing "Don't dream it, be it." And in the same time I was watching that at that time when I was falling truly in love with a friend from high school, and that made me suffer like a dog. It tore me almost apart, who I was, or who I felt I was, and who I wanted to be, because of the acceptance. But at the end, that started, this turning point started a process of about 20 years, of which at the end I have true friends, a beautiful family, a fulfilling job, and the self-confidence to call myself a Christian and a part of a rainbow family.
Thank you for sharing this. I mean, it's
You're
always,
welcome.
It's encouraging. I know we have viewers and listeners, and we might have viewers and listeners that I don't know about that are still suffering, still trying to accept themselves and have a hard time because,
Yes.
we often, so many of us thought that we are the only ones and didn't know anyone else, especially when we grew up in churches.
Yes.
Where we didn't know who to turn. And of course, our time, there was no internet where we could look for a little bit more support and other things. So one interesting thing for me is ethics. How did you decide to study ethics, and does it have to do anything with your self-discovery, with your wrestling with yourself?
Yeah, I decided to study only theology actually for the first 2 years, and then I went to Jerusalem for 1 year to study there, and I came back and I knew and I felt that I had to do also something else, not to just be in that bubble of theologians, and I started to study also science of religions, but the issue with the ethics, well, for that, I have to say, I felt always protected and guided in my life. There were doors which opened and I only had to step through. And that was a thing about ethics. I started to work during my studies in theology already at recently founded National Advisory Board of Biomedical Ethics, and it made sense that I write my master thesis in the field of bioethics. And later on, when I worked as an executive secretary for the Foundation Health Promotion Switzerland, I started another master program in business administration. And it made sense to deepen my knowledge in that field and to graduate with a master thesis in business ethics. So that's my journey to ethics. Of course, through theology, because in theology we had not what is called ethics, but we had moral philosophy. That's how they called it, or theological ethics.
The ethics of the church towards LGBT people are very different, maybe, from some that we perceive today. How did you wrestle with this, like the view of the church on or about LGBT people?
Yeah, well, first of all, the church, in my comprehension, we are church. You are church, I am church. and not those above us, our church, and those people who work for the church and should work for us and not against us. So that's the first thing. What is church? And the second thing is there is no. If you say ethics of the church, you mean like dogmas and their behavior towards us, or towards the LGBTI community. But that is what I call moral ethics. Ethics is something. Ethics has the structure of a dialogue and not of a monologue. So we have to talk about ethics, and we have to find ourselves. Maybe also finding compromises and to establish something, values and moral and the reasoning around these moral phrases, which is ethics. And that means also that ethics can change. Ethics can change in the timeline, and because it has the structure of a dialogue, and because it depends of people and their views and their context. So context changes, and people change, and so ethics change too.
I love this concept of dialogue. It's amazing.
Oh, that's good, because we are doing an interview here.
Yeah, exactly. But I would like to know, I mean, the Paulus Akademie is a lot about dialogue.
Exactly.
Can you maybe tell a few words? I mean, we mentioned Paulus Akademie, and somehow I didn't have it in the questions, but I think it's ridiculous not to talk about it.
Yes, I would love to do that. The Paulus Akademie was founded after the Second Council of Vatican Council, and the motto of that council was open the windows to the world. And so the Catholic Church of Zurich took that very seriously, and it was already, let's say, a liberal church. And so they thought, well, that's a good idea. Let's get in dialogue with the world. And they thought, okay, we need like a place and the center of dialogue for this dialogue with between church and the world. And so how Paulus Akademie was funded. Meanwhile, it's clear it's not a dialogue between church and the world or the society or belief and society, because the people are society and they are church. So that's why we say the Paulus Akademie is a center of dialogue in church and in society for, and that's our claim, questions of nowadays. Okay, so we are not dealing with history of the church or with the past, but with the questions of today. And for this, we have 5 fields of actions. The first is theology and religion, because we believe that it belongs together. The main word in these 3 words is the and, theology and religion. And then we have business and social ethics, also the and, because business should be there for the social, for the people, right? And then we have the environmental and health ethics. We have also philosophy and politics. Well, that's a more Platonic comprehension of philosophy that has very much to do with politics, also ethics actually. And the 5th is diversity and inclusivity. And that's, if you look at these 5 fields of actions, that is the only field which doesn't mark the field in which we are organizing events and dialogues, but it's program. It means we are for diversity and inclusivity.
So tell me, I mean, this is extremely interesting, and I hear your excitement.
My passion, I hope.
A passion, yes, that's a better word for what you're doing. And you already said that you're so happy that, you know, your life and everything, the doors that were opening led you to this place. So how is it as a gay man who has a rainbow family, a partner, and a daughter? What are the challenges? How are the people reacting to you as an openly rainbow family man?
In the church or in the society in general?
Let's first talk about Paulus Akademie, and I guess the church is also kind of supporting the Paulus Akademie.
Yes, exactly. Well, the Paulus Akademie, you're right. We are a private, actually a private foundation. We are foundation, so independent, but the money comes from the Catholic Church, and they have also some words to say to our program and to who we are. But I have to say, there were never no challenges concerning the Catholic Church in Zurich. The Catholic Church in Zurich accepted me from the beginning for who I am. That's the beautiful thing about the Catholic Church in Zurich. The challenges in general as being a Christian and part of a rainbow family is, well, there are no challenges because Catholics don't have a problem with rainbow families. They have a problem with gay, lesbian, and trans people raising kids. Concerning this, there is still a lot of work to do.
Yeah. So from when you mentioned that one of the pillars or directions that you go in is diversity and inclusivity, is LGBT and LGBT topics, is that part of it?
Yes, it got, well, the biggest parts are probably disabled persons, mostly physical problems, but also psychological problems. So there we would probably talk more about inclusion, okay? But it's also the whole question of migration, which is also a big question. And there we talk about inclusivity, meaning that it's important that they have political rights too, every minority. And these are the main fields in this field of action, diversity and inclusivity, I would say. And also the most of our events is turning around these issues and is about these issues. But from time to time, well, diversity is also concerns, of course, also other minorities like the LGBTIQ community. Yeah. So, of course, we do and we have to do events for this minority, about this minority. And like I said, it's a contemporary question, especially in the church. And we have to do something around this question and to try to find answers and to promote their inclusivity, their inclusion, and we also want to do that. You know, I hesitate because we try to not take part, but of course at the end we do have to have a position that concerns also my life till now. If you are longing for acceptance, you have to enter in a dialogue and you have to look for maybe also for compromises. And so it's very important to listen also to the other side. Okay, so that's our role, you know. Let's say we have an event, a podium. We try to enter in a dialogue, in a true one, in an open-ended dialogue, and not in a discussion or a fight or a debate. And I, as a moderate, do you say moderator? I don't know in English.
Somebody, I don't know, like someone who moderates conversations.
Exactly, who moderates conversation.
Moderator,
I try to
mediator.
A mediator. I try not to take part, and I try to understand every side. So,
the fact that you're gay and part of, in a way, like LGBT plus community, whatever that means. I'm a little bit against this word because it sounds so cohesive, but we are different, and it's not like we think all alike and we have the same idea. But being gay, is it hard to kind of push an LGBT topic? Like, is there a lingering fear, oh, if I push this, they're going to say, of course he's going to push it because he's LGBT. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You know, we had in the... For example, we had last autumn, there was this political debate and national voting about marriage for everybody. And so we thought we have to do something, an event around this question. But there were a lot of other events, you know, because it was a political topic for today. And but it was, so we said, okay, let's focus at this question in the church. So we made an evening with an input from a professor for 20-30 minutes. And we called it not marriage for everybody, but blessing for everybody. But because it was about this question in the Catholic Church. And I asked my employee, the Mr. Muders, who is working for the field of action, health and environmental ethics, to moderate this, because I said exactly for that reason, because I thought maybe people think that I'm not neutral as a moderator, so and I take part, and I didn't want it you know. Yeah. So I tried to step back. But for example, on Friday, during this Congress of the European Forum, there will be also an evening about the question LGBT and being Christian, and I will moderate that. Well, that fits. That is okay, I think. So yes, of course, I try to be sensitive for also how I act as a director or as somebody who organizes events and moderates them. I think that is important.
So one lingering question that is always there is, I mean, even I got this question. So why would you, as a gay man, want to stay within the realms and surrounding of the Catholic Church, which I heard in Zurich is very open, but in general there are still so many problems, so many issues, discrimination and everything. So people ask why. So what is your reason to stay connected and continue identifying as Catholic?
Well, I can tell you it's not because I'm the director of an institution who's paid from the Catholic Church. It's not because I don't want to lose my job. This question, it was a question for me too once. But then I realized that the institution, the religious institution, the church in this case, you were born into, is like your family. And it's like with your family, the relationship with your family. They may drive you crazy, but you love them anyway. And if you leave them, you leave a big part of yourself. You know, so you can do that, but that's a big decision, and you have to reflect that very well. Well, I decided to stay. And if I have a message for the members of our LGBTIQ community as Christians, I would say, stay, fight for what you believe in, and don't give up the hope that love can change everything.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Well, of course, I know there are sometimes people that just don't have the strength. So
Yes.
be aware of what you can do and what is okay for you, I think. But that's clear. So thank you for saying that, because I think I was once told many years ago that there are two different kinds of people that change the church from within and from outside. And it's important to have both of those people.
Yes.
So, and we understand the context. So you work a lot with dialogue. Do you see that you being gay and different, and then also growing up, being constantly the foreigner in Switzerland?
Yes.
Do you think, well, I think you already answered a little bit of that question, but maybe you want to say more. Where do you see the advantages of your experience for this work that you do?
Exactly. Well, the answer has like two parts. The first part I already mentioned, I answered. It's really that my struggles made me sensitive for diversity and inclusivity, and that is also an issue of the Paulus Akademie. Of course, it influences my work, and I think also positively. But the other thing is, or maybe I have to say it from another perspective. The origins of philosophy is not the question, who am I, but why me? So those struggles for being accepted in front of the others, but also this self-acceptance, they made me think. That's what philosophy is about. And they made me enter in a dialogue, and they made me look for solutions, maybe compromises, solutions by compromises. And they made me look for creative solutions. I think suffering, not always, but can be an enhancer for finding creative solutions and solutions with which everybody can live.
Isn't that kind of where all the art is coming from? Also,
yeah, that's what we say. That's what they say. Yes, probably yes.
So there is a lot of creativity in suffering. So Buddhists are up to something. I mean, they're.
I mean, if you have your perfect life, why would you want to change something? And if you don't want to change something, why would you try to change something yourself, your environment, talk with the others? Why should you talk with the others? Yeah. And then you can drink and make party with the others. But I would say at least 99% of this of the people in this world are not rich, and they want to change their lives, or something in their lives at least.
Yeah. I asked one activist. He was really frustrated, and he said, I want this society to change already, and I'm sick and tired. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, let's imagine society changed and LGBT plus people are just perfectly accepted and there is no difference anymore. What would you do? And it was like, that's a good question. I said, yeah, well, one part of us, we are frustrated, but we also enjoy that we can do something and that we have a purpose.
Yeah, probably we will find another purpose. That's true. But yes. I think the main word is, I wanted to change it already or immediately. And we just have to accept it that, how how do you say, don't rush good things. Or good things need time. They need time and patience. So giving up is not about not giving up because of the obstacles, but also don't resignate. You say, I don't know if you say resignate in English, but don't let it go. Don't let it go. Be patient, but be right there. Be steady and attentive and go forward. Try to balance your energies and put them in the right way. And in the right focus. I think that is a very important thing. To return to a former question about the challenges of a part of a rainbow family. Maybe it's not like I said. Of course, I heard that there are people who have a problem with me in the church and blah blah, but they don't say it to my face. So I won't look for them and try to argue with them. If they want to tell me something, they shall tell me, but they have to count with my, with my energy. I won't, there is no discussion about my family and yes, unfortunately, I'm a theologian and I can argue why to be a Christian and a member of the LGBTIQ community is not a problem.
So they can argue with you, but they're going to have a very hard job.
Exactly. They are very welcome to argue, but they have to. They just have to accept that I won't back down.
Yeah. Oh, great. So, what do you hope for to accomplish through your work here at Paulus Akademie?
Well, the Paulus Akademie, we commit ourselves to organize dialogues, open-ended dialogues. And we believe and we hope that these dialogues are not only for finding solution for a problem, but they are the first step towards a world where every human being can develop freely and responsibly and thrive, flower and bloom like a flower. Well, that is what we are hoping for.
Is there any piece of wisdom or, maybe a sentence or something that was really important for you in your life and that was carrying you? I know this is a very broad question.
No.
And I guess there are probably many influences and many important authors and happenings. But what would you share with our viewers and listeners as something that was carrying you through life?
Oh, I have a very clear idea about that. And what I told you about my family, my Hungarian family, my rainbow family, my being Christian, my work, there is something. And I always say I teach what I was taught by my grandparents and my parents. And that is first, every work is good work, because they suffered also of being unemployed. And that means my grandfather told me, remember, it's not your work which gives you dignity, but it's you who gives dignity to your work. Okay, so being toilet cleaner does not define you as a person and your dignity. Okay, but you can do your job very well also as a toilet cleaner. But be always have this attitude. You have dignity. You it's not dignity which is given by you to any work. That's the first thing. The second thing is never stop to learn, because my grandparents made the made the experience when the Soviets entered in the Second World War. My grandparents told me they were taking then away everything, even the carpet under their feet. So they had to rebuild everything from the ground and from the beginning with my grandfather, my grandmother, with 7 children, 6 girls and 1 boy. And the only thing they had were their knowledge and their capacities. So that's why they always told me, never stop to learn, because what you have in your head, nobody can take away. That's the point. And the third thing is, always be a gentleman. And what is a gentleman? I asked my grandfather when I was a child, and he said that's somebody who makes the people around you feel at ease. That's something beautiful. I love that. Maybe a fourth thing which told me my grandmother, I don't know if it's really an established sentence phrase in the Hungarian culture, but it said, where there is no hospitality, there are no angels. That's also, I love that, and that's I always say what I inherited from my Hungarian part of the family, from my Hungarian family, because everybody's Hungarian there, is this hospitality. I love to cook and have a lot of friends, a lot of times, a lot of evenings, actually all the time. I'm not a person who needs, quiet and being alone. Oh, I love to be with people and to talk, and so that's something which I learned from them, this hospitality. I hope so.
Well, I definitely experienced you as being the gentleman.
Well,
I feel at ease with you. So
oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't know about, you welcomed us here, so and you were willing to come, so I feel welcome here, so thank you for that. But I have to ask you one more question, because you mentioned your family, your wider family. How are they? How is your relationship with them, and how did they accept you?
Well, that's fun. It's not fun. It's my family. Well, my parents are beautiful. I thought when I tell my father that I'm gay, that he will chase me and from the house and the way and everything. But he surprised me. He always surprises me. I always thought I knew him, but he always surprises me in a positive way. And I only told him that I have a boyfriend when I had a boyfriend, because I didn't want to. There was no sense, or at the time I thought it was there's no meaning to tell him if there is nothing. I mean, just because I'm gay, who cares? Yeah. But then I had a friend that I didn't want to hide him, and I brought him at home, and I told my father, I'm coming for Christmas with my boyfriend. And my boyfriend was a Muslim at that time. And so he didn't have Christmas. That's why I said, I'm coming home from Christmas. Every Christmas I will come home as long as you live, and as long as you are alone, I will come home for Christmas, because Christmas is a family event. But I will bring my boyfriend. And we entered, and he just grabbed him and hugged him, and I was like, and then we played Romay, and he was giving him the best cards. So they accepted my boyfriend, they loved him, they still do. He's my ex-boyfriend, but they have a great relationship. They love me, but they still are children of their generation and of their time and of their maybe Christianity. Yeah. And if I would tell them that I fell in love with a woman and she's expecting a child, they would be super happy probably. But I don't think that they would be more happy. then the other thing is that are my parents. Of course, I have a wider family. And when I got director of the Paulus Akademie, I told my aunt, she's so Catholic, about 85, and I told her so proudly, I'm becoming director of the Paulus Akademie, which is a Catholic institution. And she told me, it was not reflected, it came from the stomach, from the heart. She told me, oh, your bishop made a big mistake. And I didn't say anything. I wasn't looking for a fight, but I know that my nephew, my godchild even, not my nephew, my godchild, who's a grandchild of this aunt, I think he talked about with her, and she was calling me 3 days after, and she was excusing for herself that she didn't meant that, and that was cute, you know. Yeah. She has her principles, but she loves me. You know, she's ready to take a step over the gap and leave her principles because of the love for me. And she's struggling with it, but I mean, I struggled also for about 20 years being gay, so she will get that time, okay? Yeah. She will get that time. We have to, like I said, we have to be patient with our surrounded family and friends and hope for the best. In the end, it will be like Conchita Wurst said at the Eurovision when she won. Yeah, we are unstoppable.
Yeah. Well, one of my friends said the superpower of LGBT people is that we are in every family. There is at least someone somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
So thank you, Csongor, for being my guest today. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you very much, Mel, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Very welcome. And thank you for having us here and being a great host.
Thank you for being here and helping to be what we stand for diversity and inclusivity. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad. Thank you, dear viewers and listeners, for being with us today. I hoped you enjoyed this as much as I did. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. It is part of the Let Us Be Heard series supported by HMS. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can visit our webpage. And of course, you can find the link even to the Paulus Akademie down in the podcast description. So don't forget to visit, and maybe you'll find even another interesting link there. So look there. See you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.